Good evening, folks. It's Colio with DX5. We are here taking down Aoife tonight. This will be the fourth city that DX5 will be taking down on server Global 9 this evening. As you can see, Aoife is kind of tucked up in a corner right here with the wall around it and some higher level tiles. So we had to stretch out down the road here a little bit to get there. Again, for alliance leaders that are planning this raid, just make sure that you're teaching your team that they need to plan for march times to be able to hit the city on time. You can see that it's approximately 1855. We're going to be attacking the city at 1900 game time today. That is server +1 or 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. This particular raid, it looks like we've got mostly U.S. players, but DX5 does have quite a large amount of international players as well. We try to get the international raids in at server -7 so that those guys aren't having to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make the raids tonight. So if you haven't watched any of my other videos, a little bit of preparation information. This is a level 3 city. You can see that You can see that right here. It's got 2,500 hit points of siege that need to go down for stage 2. For stage 1, it's got 4 armies that you can see right here, and they are level 6 armies. So they've got 18,000 armies in each one of them with level 25 gyros inside of there. At this point in the game, we've got probably, I don't know, 6 players or so that could solo this city if they really wanted to, but we're trying to get the entire crew used to raiding, used to landing on time, and things like that. So what we're going to be doing tonight is phase 1 is what I call the tank or the clear phase. That's going to be taking out those 4 armies that we were talking about right here. So everybody's going to land right at 1900. In addition to that, once we get the 4 phases down, we are going to be calling all in. And all in will be everybody else. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to knock down the 2,500 hit points that the city has itself. Again, at this point, we've got players that are already hitting for over 200 siege. That should not take real long. We hit a city earlier today that took us literally 6 minutes and 19 seconds. So we can take these down pretty fast. A little bit more of a march time on this one, but we still think that we're going to be knocking it down pretty quick here. So you can see some of the cities or some of the armies are starting to attack. That's because they've got the longer march times, and they are directed to land right at 1900. So I'm playing my tablet, doing the video, and playing 2 accounts. So we're doing a few different things here at the same time. And I'm going to go ahead and launch my main army here. For those of you that have not done this before, you can see exactly when you're going to land by clicking on there and then clicking clicking on the window here that shows when you're going to show up. So I've actually got about 10 more seconds. I don't want to be early, so we'll just keep checking this. 1900, boom. All right, so my main army is off on both of my characters. Again, what we're looking for here for players and alliance leaders is we're looking for these defensive troops, the 4 of these to go down. As we start clearing these, this number will go down 3 out of 4, 2 out of 4, 1 out of 4, and then 0 out of 4. Personally, I call all in at 0 out of 4 so that none of the siege troops that go in there hit one of those 18,000 person armies and get nailed. So that's where we're at this point. You can see everybody's got a little bit of time going. We've still got about 50 seconds before actual raid time. So alliance leaders, one of the things that you want to do here is look at the armies and make sure that nobody's going to be landing prior to when that's actually going to happen. Because our armies are so strong and powerful, we should be knocking those 4 defensive armies out pretty quick. We'll see how it goes here. This is one of our optional raids, so this is not a mandatory raid for DX5 members. Our first raid that was a mandatory raid was the level 3 city of League. We had 43 fortresses there. I do not, in the first week, I don't like people spending resources on fortresses, so I made a few of the raids optional. This is one of them. Considering we're knocking these things down in 6 minutes, we don't need to have the entire team there. So that the people that are not in a position to spend the resources to build the fortresses have the capability of being able to go ahead and grow as opposed to having to attack the cities and build fortresses. So you can see several people have draws here. If you get a draw on a city fight, the best thing to do is recall and resend. The reason why is you're going to be in a draw for 5 minutes. If you recall and resend, you will not be in that draw. So I'm going to check on my big guy here. Yep, she's in a draw, so I'm going to recall, confirm. I personally like to gem my guys out and resend them. Okay, so this is all of the troops are dead. We're going to call all in for siege. Now everybody goes, so I'm going to go ahead and send my siege team on in there as well. You can see I've got a little bit more of a hike. Siege teams are slower, so it's 332. As fast as we've been knocking these guys down, the siege, the fight might be over before my siege team actually lands. All right, so we'll just do a quick check now that all the armies are down. You're going to see that the siege number, instead of being 25 out of 2,500, is now down to 2457 out of 2,500. That number is not going to go down real fast right in the beginning because, again, those siege troops take a long time to land before they get there. But once they start landing, you can see, the slower troops that are moving in here, those are your siege troops. But once they start hitting 4 or 5 minutes out in this particular configuration, because they've got a little bit more march time, that siege number is going to go down real fast. So let's take a look at it again here. Oops. Take a look at it again here real quick. So 2292, again, most of that's gone down right now. That was not siege. That was tank armies that hit after all the city troops had already gone. All right, going down a little bit more. For the experienced players out here, you'll recognize that sound. We just had another army hit here, so let's see who hit. If you want to see what the 18,000 looks like, so this was my primary army going in. They had 17,000 troops, almost 18,000 troops, level 27s. These guys had 18,000 troops, level 25s. Did pretty good, but I still pulled a draw. That's very disappointing, considering that earlier today I was taking these guys out with no problem. And then, yeah, that second army was not a siege army that hit, so not anything to show you on the siege side of things right now. So again, I am playing on my tablet. It's a little bit easier to see where the numbers are. We're now down to 2011 siege left on the city. So we're roughly 20% into the fight here. 20% into the fight with 3 minutes and 42 seconds of fighting time. So not too bad. We knocked down the city armies about as fast as we've been knocking everything else down. But the travel time here is going to get us outside of our typical 6 to 8 minute window for clearing a level 3 city. We'll still knock it down with no problem, but that's where we're at. So while we're waiting for some of the seats to go in, if you're trying to figure out how to set up for these raids, basically phase 1, the tank or clear phase, because there's 18,000 troops in those city armies, those 4 city armies that I was talking about. I personally only allowed armies with 12,000 plus troops to march in the first phase. Everybody else marches in the second phase, and that's what we call the siege phase. So it doesn't matter. There's only the city guard only has 1,200 troops on the siege phase. So as long as you got about 2,000 troops or more, it doesn't really matter how high your siege is. What really matters is that you can knock out those city guard and be able to do some siege. So on our war reports, I see everything from 50-ish siege to over 200 siege, and it's simple math. If there's 2,500 siege points in there and one person lands and knocks out 100 siege, it literally drops it from 2,500 to 2,400. So that's kind of where we're at this point. All right. So again, you can see that the siege is taking a little bit longer tonight. The reason why is it's basically because the travel times on the siege armies, they are just not fast. So let's do a refresh and see what we've got here. We're down to 1359 siege left. That means that a lot of our siege armies are hitting, and they're hitting pretty quick. So let's take a look at our siege guy. See if we can't get him in there for one more hit. This particular tab or this particular account is being played on BlueStacks on a PC, actually MacBook Pro, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult to be able to get in there and see it. So you saw right there. We're down to 628. So my guys won't even make it in there for another hit on the siege. That's how fast things are going down. You can see we're at 6 minutes and 5 seconds. By the time these troops that are inbound hit, this fight's over. That's how fast that it's going, and that's how good, how powerful our team is in doing these attacks. So if you're doing whatever country and you're attacking your first level 3 cities, there's typically 4 of them in a country. Just know that if you're trying to gauge if you're doing well or not doing well, within that first week of doing raids or the first week that the server's being opened, you should be able to knock these down in about 10 minutes or less. If you're doing 8 minutes or less, you're doing exceptionally well. If you're down in that 7 minute or less window, you've got some hitters and your people have really been paying attention to the rules. You've got some good siege. And that's how that's how these things will go down fast. All right, I'm taking a look at the tablet. 535 siege left. I'm going to guess that my boy Fryer here is not going to make it back in. He's not going to make it back in. There's no way. We'll just see if we can't get another look at what's going on right here on the screen so you guys can see it. 161 siege. Yep, Fryer's not going to make it. So at least I got one hit in on my siege before the raid was completely over. We are at 7 minutes and 32 seconds. Again, earlier today we took one out at 6 minutes and 19 seconds. There we go. 7 minutes and 38 seconds, even with the additional travel time. That was DX5 on Immortal Conquest server Global 9 with our team here that is less than a week old. This is Khalil for DX5 Gaming. Peace out.